Hi and welcome. My name is Lawrence Baker and this video is going to be a bit of fun. I'm going to play around with Photoshop. I'm in Lightroom at the moment. I took this image about 6 years ago. I'm going to turn it into a wintry scene, make it darker, a bit bluer, put the moon behind the tree and some birds coming into roost as well, hopefully ravens and crows. So I'm going to do this all in Photoshop, so I need to get it into Photoshop. Well, the normal method would be this: Photo, Edit in, Adobe Photoshop, Command and Control E. But in my preferences, it will come in as a TIFF or PSD, and I want it as a smart object so I can invoke Adobe Camera Raw, because this is a raw file, a .dng, which is Adobe's proprietary raw format. It stands for digital negative, I believe. Anyway, let's get it in the way I want it, which is Photo, Edit in, Open as Smart Object in Photoshop. Here it is in Photoshop. You can see there in the Layers panel menu, it's a Smart Object thumbnail there. So if I double click on it, I'm going to invoke Adobe Camera Raw. Now, I'm in the basic panel here. So what I'm going to do is bring the temperature down a little bit, bring the exposure down quite a lot, boost up the highlights because I maybe take them down actually. Shadows, bring them down a bit as well. Blacks, bring them down because I'm trying to make everything darker, and probably take the saturation down a bit as well. Quite a lot actually, -33. Then I'm going to use a graduated filter. Come and click here. I'm going to drag up from the bottom like so. And it's already on some settings, so I'm going to reset it and just bring the exposure down, bring the saturation right down. I'm trying to use that orange glow, exposure down a bit more, and bring the highlights down as well. Could drag it up a bit further actually to help me along a little bit. So that'll do. The next thing I'm going to use is an adjustment brush, because I'm going to put the moon in that area there. So let's reset the adjustment brush as well. Turn the mask on. So I'm going to paint around in this area. I'm going to see the red mask. And I think my flow should be around 20 and my feather around 60. That looks fine. Density 100. So right-hand square bracket key to make it larger, left to make it smaller. I'm just going to paint around, not bothered about the tree at all. Turn the mask off, and all I'm going to do here is bring up the exposure, because that's where the moon is going to sit. So I need that bit of sky a little bit brighter. Probably bring the highlights up as well, but bring the shadows down. Probably add to it a little bit more around there as well, and a bit around here. That's as far as I'm going to go. Then I'm going to use another graduated filter. I know it's going in the way of the adjustment brush, but it won't make much difference. I'm going to bring that one down after I've reset it. Bring the exposure down. Maybe bring the highlights up a bit to help that bit along. Bring the shadows down. Just straighten up a bit as well up here. You don't have to be fussy with this. I'm just trying to make everything a bit darker. I might click on that one there and actually make that a bit darker altogether. Try and knock out those highlights a bit more. So that's looking pretty good. I've got that bright area there. That's where the moon's going to sit. One more time with the brush actually. Just bring up the exposure a tad more to help things along, and probably paint around there a little bit as well. That'll do. Okay. It's always editable because it's a smart object. Now, I could use a moon brush. Let me show you that. Now, let's put a layer on. Come down here, click on the new layer icon, or go Shift, Command and Control N. So here's my layer. I'm going to name it Moon as well, because I'm going to use a brush at first. So let's go and find some brushes via Google Chrome. Command L. I'm going to type in here moon brushes, actually. Moon Photoshop brushes, like so. Brush Easy is a good place. Let's try that one there. Free download. I'm going to download it. Gives me 4 or 5 seconds to download it. They've got to make some money out of this site because these brushes are free. And I'm just going to save them like so. So there they are, the moon brushes. That extension there, .abr, all I have to do now is double click and those brushes will be inside of Photoshop. If I didn't want to do it that way, F5, I could come to the brushes here and go import brushes and find the .abr file. So I've got my brushes. I'm going to use, let's have a look here. And all I'm going to do is just paint down like so. Get rid of that panel now. So there's a moon brush. Now what I could do is double click here and start playing around with the blend if sliders, and Bob's your uncle, I've got a moon. Now I will go into a bit more detail because I'm going to actually bring in a photograph. So that's one way of doing it. Let's turn it off. What I'm going to do now is find a moon photograph online. So Google, I've already done this, of course. I'm just taking you through the process. Command L or Control L. And then I'm going to put full moon. Go to images. Importantly, go to tools, then size, and then go larger than 4 megapixels, which that looks pretty good. Click there to open the link. Right click. Save image as, and just call it full moon. I've probably done it already, so I'll probably get warned. Replace it, that'll do. And then I would go back to Photoshop, go File, Place Embedded. So it's going to embed the moon photograph inside this file. Place embedded. Go to the full moon picture. Go place. Drag it over to roughly the right position. Press return or press the tick symbol in the options bar. Then go to the magic wand or quick selection tool and go select subject, because this is new, I believe, in 2019. It selected the moon, which is a very obvious subject. Then I would click on the layer mask icon down here, the bottom of the layers panel. So I've lost that black edge. Also in the properties under masks, I probably would feather it a little bit. That's a parametric change as well, because you can always come back and change it. Just to feather it off a little bit, that will do. So as I showed you quickly earlier on, you can use the blend if sliders. Now, if I click back here and start using the blend modes, yes, on overlay and soft light, I'm getting somewhere. Screen's not working. Color dodge looks awful. Linear dodge, no, it's not going anywhere. Overlay and soft light, maybe hard light. I can tell you I've checked them all before. We're going to use the blend if sliders again. Double click on any blank area here to bring up the layer style dialog box, or go to layer, layer style, blending options. And inside the blending options at the bottom, we have the blend if sliders. Well, actually, people call them the blend if sliders. I'm not sure that's what Photoshop call them. It's more like, I should say, the luminosity exclusion sliders, I like to call them. Now, this layer is obviously the moon layer, and the underlying layer is the tree layer. But I'm going to drag that back down, actually, to make sure I'm on top of the layer. Now, it probably would have worked, but just to be doubly safe, I'm making sure the placed file is on top of the tree file. So again, layer, layer style, blending options. So when it's on blend if grey, that means we're working on luminosity. As I showed you quickly earlier on, when I brought that slider to the right, what I'm saying is force through from the underlying layer anything that's darker than 24. Now, the luminosity level goes from 0 for black to 255 for white. 256 levels of luminosity. So anything between 0 and 24 luminosity, i.e. those branches, will be forced through. Now, it makes a very harsh transition. So what we do is, I'll keep moving, I've seen the moon break up there. What we do is we use the Alt or Option key to split this apart. So it comes apart like so. So that is transitioning off the change. So it's smoothing it off. Now I'm going to probably bring it up a little bit higher and bring that up a bit higher as well. I'm trying to get some clouds showing in front of the moon. You know, a bit of reality, in other words. So there you go. I'm bringing some more clouds in. So I'm basically saying between 0 and 30 luminance, we're forcing it through onto that, to show through. And anything between 30 and 103, I'm sort of transitioning off. Now that looks pretty okay at the moment. Might bring it down a little bit and try and sort of get away with a bit more, but it's not quite working for me. I think it's quite dark around there. So what I should have done maybe is go okay on this, double click again to bring up Adobe Camera Raw with the brush, click and just paint around there a little bit like so. Right hand square bracket key, just round there to help things along. Okay, quick and dirty, smart objects, you should always use them because they make your life easier. back to the full moon layer here, double click to bring up the sliders. Notice those two squares there, which are showing you that the blend if sliders are being used. So I might bring in a little bit more there. I can get away with a bit more, bring some clouds back in and transition that off. I know the moon is very large, but this is a fantasy photograph. So, you know, it's not meant to be reality. Right. I need to add some birds to this. Again, I'm going to use a brush. Now I could put the other moon back on like so, but I think the photographed moon is quite good. So I'm going to stay with it. Just one more little thing that's bugging me slightly. I think I should move that back a little bit more. That'll do. That's fine. So back to Google Chrome for me, Command T, Command L or Control L. What am I searching for? Raven Brushes Photoshop. Now I've done this before, obviously. The one that's worked for me is 123freebrushes.com. Click on it or double click. Make sure you don't click on a wrong download. There's a lot of adverts here. There's nothing wrong with that. They're giving it away for free. So just click on download. Prompt me to where to save it. Birds 1-zip because I've done it before. So it's going to download it. I'll have to unpack it, etc. But what I'm going to do now is go to Photoshop, go to B for brush, but you need a new layer. So the reason being is you cannot paint on a smart object. You cannot do pixel edits. So Command or Control or Shift Command or Control N for a new layer. Call it birds. Then B for brush. F5 for the brush settings, but I want brushes. Click down and go import brushes. I'm going to downloads because I've done this already. Birds, crows and ravens.abr. Go open and that will put those brushes there. That's not a good view of them, but if you go to brush settings, you can see a little bit better. Now I'm looking for a flock of them at first. Now make sure you're on default colors, D on your keyboard for black in the foreground. So I'm now going to paint down on that layer and just add some birds in. Make them slightly larger so they're coming towards us. Now I'm going to flip them on the X-axis so it doesn't look so obvious and make these slightly larger as well. So you can see the birds coming into roost. Also, I'm going to add a few into the trees here. So there's one there, very big, left-hand square bracket key going now. I'm going to picture that one just about, probably a bit too large, just about there. And then use another one which is there and make it a little bit smaller again and put that one on about there. Trying to get my perspective right here. There's another one here flying in, but it's flying away. So flip on X-axis and put that one a bit smaller into there, just about there. And then maybe on one swiveling in across the moon there to come into land like so. So I think that looks quite good. So back away like that. So that's my scene, guys. I think it looks okay. I could do a lot more. Let's say B for brush, F5, and say put more into the flock if I wanted to. Look around for brushes. I just found these quickly. You know, I mean, it doesn't mean they're right. It's just what I found quite quickly. So there's my scene. As I said, I could have used the other moon if I wanted to. Just turn that one off, actually. If I wanted to, that's not bad either. But basically, I think the photograph moon looks better, actually. So if I played around with the blend if sliders, I probably could get it a lot better. But actually, so that's the brush moon. Turn that one off. That's the other one. I think that looks better. Now, the blend if sliders, what I will remind you about them just one more time is I'm forcing through 0 to 41 there, and then between 41 and 114, I'm forcing them through, but I'm transitioning them off, making a smooth transition through so it doesn't make things harsh. It all depends on the blend mode here. You could call these blend if sliders the luminosity exclusion sliders if you wanted to, but everyone says blend if, so I should stick with everyone else. So I hope you got something from this, guys. As I said, it's dictated to by the blend mode as well. So that's why I start with normal. If I probably went to something like screen now, it doesn't look that bad. Maybe overlay or soft light, well, they look awful actually. But you might want that effect, you know, more of a fantasy effect. So normal is working for me. That's it, guys. Thanks very much.